And it's John Gibbons for Tour Live, and I'm delighted to be joined in the studio, which is a lovely surprise, by Peter Moore. Peter, thanks so much for coming in to see us.
Yeah, John, my pleasure. Always a pleasure, in fact. And coming in for the game this weekend. Delighted to coincide with some work I'm doing in London next week. And when I saw City was on the fixture list, grabbed my wife and said, "We're going in early," and I'm really looking forward to it.
Looking forward to the game, of course. And on Sunday, it's a huge game, but at Anfield as well, I'm sure there'll be tributes to Roger Hunt, who passed away this week. And one of the reasons I got in touch with you, I didn't realise you were in Liverpool then, but got in touch to help us pay tribute to Roger, because as I said to you in the message, you're in a quite unique position, really, in that, he was an idol of yours growing up, and someone who used to watch as a boy, and then someone who I'm sure you'll have got to know later in your life. So first of all, to help our younger and sort of listeners who may be newer to Liverpool, we've seen the stats, we've seen the numbers, but how brilliant a player was Roger Hunt?
When you think about that team overall, the Shankly team of the mid-'60s, and you had in those days, and for younger fans, it was literally five strikers at times. Your front five with your left winger, Peter Thompson, your right winger, Ian Callaghan, and then you had the Saint and Sir Roger. That's referring to him as his formal name as anointed by the Kop. And what a goal-scoring duo they were, and then supported obviously by Big Ron Yates at the back and Gordon Milne and Jerry Byrne. Just an incredible team that just came together so well. The chemistry that Shankly had built into them, but Sir Roger, always a gentleman. Just a bygone era, John, as regards footballers. They didn't make a lot of money. Yeah. He was idolized by the Kop because of his demeanor. England player, and as you said, I got to meet him the first week I was here. It was the Player Awards in 2017, and I'd already met a lot of the players, and I'm always in awe of meeting a player. But across the room, my wife Debbie remembers this. I said, "That's Roger Hunt," and I was like frozen to the spot, and walked over, and he still looked, for his age, looked phenomenal, and it was Roger Hunt. You could tell from 100 yards away, and shook his hand and started chatting to him, and he was so gracious with his time, so kind. And I asked him one of the things I've always wanted to ask him. I said, World Cup final, 66, Jeff Hurst hits the bar.
Yeah.
And you're right there. And you turn away straight away. He said, it was over the line.
Yeah.
I said, it was? He said, it was over the line. He said, if it wasn't, you don't think I wouldn't have pounced on it? It was over the line. And for 50 odd years, I've never been convinced that the Russian linesman was right. But having that one-on-one conversation, he said, yeah, it was there, and it was over the line. Otherwise, I would have gone after it and pushed it in.
Yeah.
And I always remember having that, kind of out-of-body conversation with Roger, and his wife always at his side. As he, in his later years, getting a little slow, and she was just wonderful in supporting him. And that night, I always remember, just all the former players get together, but everybody wanted to talk to Roger. And so, it was just wonderful going back in the memories of me as a little boy, boy's pen, God help us all, onto the paddock with my dad, and then finally onto the Kop to watch that team later on. And I would be about 12 or 13 by that time. But that, as we all know, is the platform by which this football club is built.
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely. You mentioned there 66, the World Cup final, and him having the best view of the house to see it sort of cross the line. He scores, I think, 3 goals during the World Cup in the build-up, so it was a key part of that team. But maybe even a bigger deal in Liverpool was the year before, and another cup final, the FA Cup final. And when you came in to very kindly do a Desert Island Goals show with me, and you were only allowed to pick 3 goals, one of them was from the 65 Cup final, which I think shows what a huge deal it was for Liverpool to win that FA Cup. He was part of that team, and one of the many reasons why he goes down in history as a Liverpool legend as the first team to win the FA Cup.
Well, yeah, and it's funny, we took, in the later years, 70s, 80s, even into the 90s, we took winning cups, and the FA Cup, of course we win the FA Cup, but it's hard to explain how important that first FA Cup victory was, and huge against a tremendous Leeds United team, which they were for many years afterwards. And of course, that team and Jerry Byrne dislocating his shoulder and playing on because there were no substitutes. remember, Liverpool were in the second division when I started watching them, and a mediocre second division team as it is. And I think it was the 40-year anniversary for Shanks this week. I think of his passing. And I saw a great video that somebody posted on Twitter where Shankly's walking around the pitch, and there's the paddock and the Kemlyn Road stand, and you look at it today, and the stadium looks shambolic, but in relation to what we have today, but it's hard to overstate the importance of that team. And the great players that I got to meet, and unfortunately, many we're losing them now, that period of time, but I got to meet Tommy Lawrence before he passed away, and Tommy Smith, and Peter Thompson, all of whom, and of course the Saint, all of whom we've lost in the last few years. Yeah. We need to treasure these people, and thank God we still got Callie, who is just a force of nature, and I'm hoping to find him on Sunday at the game and say hello. And you still got some of the core players, Gordon Milne, that are part of that team. And everybody needs to remember, without that team, I'm not sure we would have what we have today. Got us out of mediocrity, got us not only into the first division, but a contender pretty quickly as a championship team. Got us into Europe, albeit tough times with Inter Milan. But I do remember Reykjavik being, I think the first game we played was like 10-0 or something. And then a rather controversial home and away with Inter Milan. And that was the team that was playing, all the way into the 70s, and Tommy Smith scoring from a corner kick there. That team was the backbone of what we have today.
I mean, you could just see from his record what a phenomenal player he was. Yeah. He's second in the all-time list, but worth pointing out, number one in league goals. He's absolutely number one. We've got a forward at the moment who might sort of challenge that if we can sort of keep hold of him. But, he is that superstar, of the day, isn't he? And it's really resonated me how many players have come out and said he was my favourite player. So David Fairclough, someone who's a Liverpool legend as well. Yeah. John Aldridge, these guys are saying he was my hero, he's my hero. If you were a young forward during that time, Roger Hunt was your man.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was 286 league goals. And I'm, there may be somebody playing right now that could use that, but Rushy is all time, but aggregated goals for Liverpool. But it's going to be tough to score 200. I mean, you're talking Premier League goals. Yeah, and he. I had to share those duties with Ian St. John as well. It's not like he was the only striker going down the middle. The Saint was right there scoring goals, obviously, as well there. But I think it was as much, John, his demeanour, the way he played the game, and the gentle, if that's a word, attitude by which he approached the game. And Shankly, I know in talking to his family, adored that in him, that he had somebody that he could rely on, was consistent, that played the game the way that Shanks believed the game should be played, but boy, knew where the back of the net was, And when you throw the Saint in there alongside him, incredible.
Yeah, some team we had. Yeah. You mentioned it briefly before, but something I said last time to you, but I'll say again, and something I thought you were excellent at as your time of CEO of Liverpool was keeping these people involved as much as possible and keeping their stories alive and reminding everyone, just as you said earlier, this is what... we're now standing on the shoulders of these giants and things like that. And you must, obviously be so sad for the legends that we've lost over the last couple of years, but also delighted that you were able to, not just yourself, spend some time with these guys, but to facilitate so many other people, within the ground who come for the match day experience, get to meet these legends, get to hear those stories. There's a lot of people who got to, meet Roger Hunt because the club continued to be so kind to them, but also continue to hold them close.
Absolutely. I mean, we formed, during my time at Liverpool, Forever Reds, and we formalised what was a kind of a loose charitable group of players: Aldo, Callie, Phil Neal, David Fairclough, David Johnson, group of guys that come together. And when I got there, I said, we need to bring this in-house, as it were, and formalise it and do the job properly. And we formed Forever Reds and got them ties and got them seats where they could all sit together. I saw a picture just 2 weeks ago. I was so happy to see like 7 of them in a row, which warmed my heart. That was always the plan, is for them to be there, for the fans to see them. And, as we always said, you tell Sky Sports that Ian Callaghan sat next to Ian St. John in these days, and Roger Hunt, and the cameras are going to go there. And more recently, I did see that, and I just smiled. I was it's probably 4 a.m. in Santa Barbara. I'm watching the game there, but when the camera pan, but they do such great work. The club employs so many of them from match day. And as Callie would always tell me, look, he enjoyed working match days, but he enjoyed being relevant. And it's a weird thing to say. It's Ian Callaghan, but he's many generations since he's kicked a ball, and been able to tell stories and relive the glory. And you've met him. I mean, just an absolute gentleman. And the fans in the hospitality suites and the lounges and even out in the concourses, because these guys will move around and talk to people. It's a very important part of the match day experience.
Absolutely, and long may it continue.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there will be fitting tributes on Sunday to Sir Roger Hunt.
Sir Roger Hunt, yes.
As Peter very rightly sort of clarifies. But, if Roger is looking down, I think he'll want most is a Liverpool victory on Sunday, and because he was obviously Liverpool through and through, and that's what we're all hoping for. And you're in town early. Are you looking forward to the game?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, like I say, I was already planning to be here. I'm speaking at Leaders in Sport, which is a big sport conference in my new job post Liverpool. And boy, my eyes lit up when I thought, who are we playing that weekend? And there it was. And it's great to see City. It's these are the two best, I think, right now, two best teams, that we've had. And it's great to get the momentum of the win in Porto. City had, of course, a really tough game away at PSG, but we've always done well. I don't want to jinx anything in recent period when they're at Anfield.
Yeah.
Little tougher at the Etihad sometimes, but it's always been a great game. I can't think of a bad Liverpool City game as regards. I mean, yes, we've been on the end of some hidings in the last few years there. You remember when Sadio got sent off, and that was 5-0,
yeah.
And so, but the big games at Anfield, we've always come through, and no matter what happens, it's going to be a great atmosphere. I haven't been Atletico Madrid. Last time I was in my role there was Atletico Madrid on March 12th, I think that was, of obviously 2020, before everything got locked down. That's the last time I've been in Anfield with fans. So it's going to be phenomenal to get back.
It'd be quite emotional, won't you? I would imagine.
Oh, yeah. Well, I've just been to Anfield and do some shopping, and my wife Debbie is teaching chair yoga. She's part of the Red Neighbours team.
It's incredible, that, by the way. I mean, I love Debbie. I really like her. I enjoy her company, but she's kept this going is worthy of everyone's attention.
When lockdown hit, John, she taught them all how to use Zoom, which was, I could hear her, and she's got the patience of Job, and that opened up their worlds not only for chair yoga through the Red Neighbours, but also for them to interact with their families. These are some instances, ladies in their 70s and 80s, and if you recall, during the toughest time of lockdown, nobody could go see each other, but Zoom opened up their world. So I've just been in the Sevens Lounge. They're all there, and they hadn't seen Debbie in 500 days in person.
Yeah,
and it's wonderful for me. I'm working full time again, so I'll get up, and first thing in the morning, because Debbie's up at 7 doing this, I hear Scouse accents float through our house in California, and it just warms my heart.
Yeah,
and what she's been able to do, not only physically, so many of them will say I feel more flexible, but just the camaraderie, and during very difficult times for elderly people, she's been able to do it, and it's kept us very close to the club, which we love.
Yeah, I didn't realise she was still going on. So when you told me, not just the fact that she kept going, but also that they were meeting in person today.
3 times a week in California. And she's also looking forward to going to the game. And another thing, I'll tell you, we're coming back again. I'm working in Europe at the end of the month, going to go to the Brighton game, but I'm taking her on the Cop. And she doesn't know. She's never been to games where she's not in the director's box, and she thinks that's football. So and I haven't been on the Cop in decades. Simple as that. So I'm looking forward to getting a couple of bevies on Walton Breck Road somewhere, and then we'll go on the Cop.
Absolutely.
So look for me on the Cop for the Brighton game.
Well, feel free to pop into the Glenbook after me. You'll be more than welcome. Just before we go then, Peter, obviously you stepped away from the role, but you're still obviously busy. You enjoying life? You enjoying sort of being back in the States?
I'm loving it, John. I'm as busy as ever. I can blink and see 67 years of age, and I'm working full time for a company called Unity Technologies, which is what was a big games company, 4,500, 5,000 employees now, that has grown. this concept of real-time 3D is something I'm working on in sports and live entertainment. And you hear about this thing called the metaverse every now and again, which is this always-on connected environment that we're going to all be living in very soon if we're not already. And I'm working on what Unity does best, which is visualizes data and brings to life three-dimensionally. And so I'm debuting this next week. You'll see a little glimpse on my Twitter account. But imagine a goal being scored, and within a few seconds you go to your tablet or your phone and you see that goal three-dimensionally, and you spin the action with interactive touch to see and get down in the penalty area and be there when the ball goes in the back of the net. That is the dream that we're living towards right now. So, and that's what I'm working on with an engineering team, very talented at Unity, that I'm delighted. So I can't say much more than that because we're debuting it next week, and I'm on the board of two really fun games companies, Motorsports Games, which does exactly what they say on the tin, Motorsports, and Nifty Games, which is has an NFL and an NBA franchise, both mobile and console games. So being on a board keeps me in the video game business, which I love. And on top of that, working with my foundation, I'm going to be in West Derby tomorrow, working on stuff with Ian Byrne, and we'll make an announcement on that. So we've re-upped the Peter Moore Foundation here for the specific support of families in Liverpool and the food bank stuff that we've always done. So we're going to continue that as well.
Showing us all up there, Peter.
Yeah, that's right.
Showing us all up. Thanks so much for coming in, mate. Nice to see you. Enjoy the game on Sunday. Hopefully we'll all enjoy it. Say hi to Peter, to Ian, sorry, for me tomorrow as well. And yeah, thanks so much. And up to events.